Welcome to today's fascinating deep dive into the incredible world of rare coins where history, chance, minting technology, and human curiosity all collide to create stories that leave collectors speechless and investors amazed. And today we are going to unravel the unbelievable tale of the 1974 1-cent coin. A humble penny in appearance, yet carrying a jaw-dropping value of up to $7 million because of the mysterious and dramatic errors, mistakes, and possibilities tied to its creation. And the more we dig into the background of this small copper-colored disc, the more we discover how a simple oversight at the United States Mint turned into a global sensation in the numismatic community. So stay with me as we go step by step through the unique reasons that have catapulted the 1974 penny into legendary status and made it one of the most sought-after collectibles in history. Because this coin represents not just a unit of currency but a combination of missteps, experiments, and rare surviving pieces that together produce a perfect storm of rarity, desirability, and extraordinary monetary value that only a handful of lucky individuals have ever experienced holding in their hands. And when we talk about errors and mistakes on the 1974 penny, we must begin with the monumental decision by the United States Mint to experiment with different metal compositions due to the rising cost of copper at the time, since in the early 1970s copper prices were climbing, and Mint officials feared that producing billions of pennies each year would become too expensive. So they began testing alternative metals including aluminum and bronze-clad steel, and in 1974 millions of experimental aluminum cents were struck at the Philadelphia Mint but later recalled and ordered destroyed, yet rumors and reports persist that some escaped into the hands of collectors, employees, or institutions, and these aluminum cents instantly became legendary because their survival was unintended and illegal. And any genuine surviving 1974 aluminum cent would be worth millions today because of the rarity and legal controversy surrounding them. And while the aluminum versions are a huge part of the story, even the traditional copper-based 1974 pennies contain unique varieties and mint errors that contribute to their astronomical value, such as double die errors where the coin's design elements were struck twice out of alignment, leading to dramatic doubling on the date, the inscriptions, or Lincoln's profile, and these double die examples are so visually striking that they stand out instantly to the naked eye, making them highly collectible. And then there are off-center strikes, where the coin was misfed into the press and part of the design is missing while the rest shows wide blank areas of planchet, creating a bizarre and appealing mistake that collectors love. And next come broad strike errors where the coin was struck without the collar holding it in place, producing a wider, flatter appearance. And then clipped planchet errors where part of the coin's edge is missing due to a mistake in the blanking process. And all of these error categories on 1974 cents can multiply the value dramatically, especially when found in pristine condition with little to no circulation wear. But the true blockbuster that pushes certain 1974 pennies into the multimillion-dollar territory is tied directly to the aluminum cent controversy, because although most were destroyed, a handful are believed to still exist in private hands, some discovered in the estates of former mint workers or in the collections of institutions that were once shown samples for evaluation, and since the government considers these pieces to be federal property, their legal status has sparked lawsuits, debates, and dramatic headlines, and that cloud of mystery only adds to their allure, making them holy grails in the coin collecting world. And when a coin has this kind of backstory, experimental metallurgy, government recall, survival against the odds, contested legality, and only a handful known, it transcends ordinary numismatics and becomes a piece of living history worth millions. And this is why we see claims and documented cases of 1974 1-cent coins, especially the aluminum ones, carrying values estimated at around $7 million or more depending on condition, provenance, and buyer demand, and even the copper versions with extraordinary mint errors are prized at astonishing sums because they remind collectors of the chaotic transition period of 1974, a year when the penny itself was under question and the mint was scrambling to find solutions. And beyond the errors themselves lies the fascination of possibilities, because collectors thrive on the idea that there might still be undiscovered 1974 experimental pennies hiding in drawers, piggy banks, old jars, or boxes of coins stashed away in attics, and this possibility fuels constant treasure hunts across America as everyday people check their change in hopes of stumbling upon one of these fabled rarities. And this dream of finding life-changing wealth in an ordinary-looking penny is part of what keeps the legend alive and drives both casual enthusiasts and professional numismatists to study the details of every 1974 cent they encounter, looking closely at weight, composition, strike, and alignment for clues that might reveal an extraordinary find, and the narrative becomes even more engaging when we consider how a coin worth just 1 cent when minted could rise to a value of $7 million today, which represents not only an unbelievable return on investment but also a cultural symbol of how mistakes, oversights, and rare circumstances can create treasures that defy logic. And these coins are also teaching tools for history buffs because they show how global economics, in this case copper prices, can directly influence minting policies, how human decisions and experimental trials can create unintended rarities, and how collectors' passion can turn a tiny piece of metal into a multimillion-dollar prize. And to give you a sense of how unique these are, consider that while billions of ordinary 1974 pennies were struck, only a microscopic fraction exhibit the kinds of errors and experimental origins that push them into million-dollar territory, making the contrast between common and rare absolutely staggering. And this scarcity is the lifeblood of numismatic value, because rarity plus demand equals astronomical prices, and here the rarity is compounded by controversy, legal battles, and the mythic reputation of the aluminum cents, which have fueled speculation for decades. And experts say that whenever one surfaces, the bidding wars among collectors and investors go sky high, often reaching into multi-million-dollar figures as buyers are willing to pay any price to own a piece of history that may never appear again in their lifetime. And every detail of these coins is examined with forensic precision, from metallurgical analysis to strike quality to provenance records, to ensure authenticity, because fakes and counterfeits abound in the market, but the genuine ones are unmistakably different once tested, and their discovery stories themselves become legendary tales shared in collector circles and auction houses, further boosting their mythos. And when you combine all these layers, experimental origin, destruction order, survival, errors, doubling, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, broad strikes, the chance of undiscovered pieces, the lawsuits and legal claims, the skyrocketing auction prices, the excitement of treasure hunts, you end up with a single 1974 penny that could be valued at $7 million or even higher under the right circumstances. And that is why this coin is more than money. It is a time capsule of American history, minting technology, economic policy, and the sheer unpredictability of fate. And as long as collectors dream of owning the rarest and most valuable pieces, the legend of the 1974 1 cent will continue to shine brightly, captivating audiences worldwide, reminding everyone that sometimes the smallest things can hold the greatest stories and the biggest fortunes. So if you ever come across a 1974 penny, take a long hard look at it, because who knows? You just might be holding a life-changing fortune in the palm of your hand. And with that incredible thought, remember to like this video, share it with fellow treasure hunters, and subscribe for more unbelievable stories from the world of rare coins, where a penny is never just a penny but a potential $7 million miracle waiting to be discovered. Another unbelievable journey into the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins, where ordinary pocket change can transform into life-changing treasures. And today's spotlight shines on the 1979 1 cent coin from the United States of America, a coin that in its common form is worth exactly 1 penny, but under the right circumstances, with the right errors, mistakes, and minting oddities, it has been known to command values so staggering that some examples are estimated around $6.5 million. And when we break down how a simple copper-colored disc struck at the Denver Mint in 1979 could achieve such astronomical worth, we begin to see the perfect storm of history, minting technology, collector psychology, rarity, and sheer luck that all combine to elevate a humble cent into a masterpiece of numismatic lore. Because while billions of 1979 pennies were produced, only a tiny handful carried the types of errors and anomalies that drive collectors into frenzied bidding wars, and that is where our story unfolds. So buckle up as we unravel every aspect of what makes the 1979 1 cent so rare, why certain examples are virtually priceless, and how the smallest oversight at the mint can ripple across decades to create fortunes out of pocket change. Because this is the kind of story that keeps treasure hunters, coin roll searchers, and serious numismatists awake at night imagining the discovery of one of these $6.5 million marvels. And the first thing to understand is the sheer scale of production at the Denver Mint in 1979, where over 4 billion 1-cent coins were struck, most of them perfectly ordinary, made from a copper alloy of 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin, featuring the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. And because of this massive output, finding a common 1979 D penny today is as easy as reaching into a jar of old coins. But the key difference is that out of billions, only a handful were struck with critical errors or anomalies that escaped quality control, and those are the coins that make history, because their very survival defies the odds and transforms them into legends. And when we talk about errors on 1979 D pennies, we are looking at categories like double die errors, where the dies used to strike the coins accidentally impress the design twice, slightly misaligned, leading to dramatic doubling on inscriptions like "I am God we trust," "Liberty," or the date 1979 itself, and such doubling, when bold and visible, creates coins that collectors covet intensely because of their unmistakable uniqueness. And then there are off-center strikes where the coin blank was improperly fed into the press, resulting in coins with part of the design missing and large blank areas showing, which make them look like abstract works of art and drive up their desirability. And even more striking are broad strikes where the retaining collar fails and the coin spreads wider and flatter than normal, giving it an unusual and instantly recognizable appearance. And then there are clipped planchet errors where part of the coin's edge is cut off in the blanking process before striking, leaving crescent-shaped gaps that collectors find highly appealing. And while all of these error types can produce valuable 1979 D cents, the truly life-changing multi-million-dollar valuations come from combinations of extraordinary circumstances, such as dramatic double dies in uncirculated mint state condition, coins struck on the wrong planchet such as a cent struck on a dime planchet or foreign planchet, or transitional errors linked to the shift in penny composition that loomed just a few years later in 1982 when the mint switched from copper to copper-plated zinc due to rising copper prices. And some transitional off-metal strikes connected to test runs have been reported from this era, making the 1979 D penny a key suspect in these highly experimental and ultra-rare mistakes. And when one of these spectacular rarities surfaces, it electrifies the coin community because it represents not just an error but a piece of minting history that was never supposed to exist, and the value skyrockets accordingly, sometimes surpassing $6 million when all the factors align. And another factor driving the legend of the 1979 D cent is the fascination with Denver Mint era coins in general, because the Denver facility has long been known for producing certain dramatic mistakes compared to its counterpart in Philadelphia, and collectors often pay special attention to coins bearing the D Mint mark, scanning them carefully for unusual traits, and stories abound of individuals discovering life-changing rarities in simple rolls of pennies bought from banks or even in pocket change, sparking endless treasure hunts and reinforcing the idea that fortunes could be hiding in the most ordinary places. And beyond the technical mint errors lies the psychological magnetism of possibility, because for every common penny, there exists the dream that the next coin examined could be the jackpot, the $6.5 million marvel, and this dream fuels endless searching, coin roll hunting, and attendance at auctions where the rarest specimens are fiercely contested, and when one does appear, the excitement is electric, with collectors and investors from around the world competing to own a piece of history that might never come up again. And it is this competition that drives prices to breathtaking heights, because in numismatics rarity plus demand equals astronomical value, and the 1979 D 1 cent embodies that equation perfectly, with its tiny population of surviving spectacular errors set against the backdrop of billions of ordinary coins, creating a sharp contrast that only intensifies collector desire. And this story is also tied deeply to the broader narrative of American coinage in the late 1970s, an era of inflation, economic shifts, and rising commodity prices that influenced decisions at the mint and created an environment ripe for experimentation, mistakes, and hurried production, and so every 1979 era coin becomes not just a minting accident but a time capsule reflecting the pressures and transitions of that era. And this historical weight adds to their value because collectors are not just buying metal, they are buying history, rarity, and a story to tell, and in the world of high-end coin collecting, stories matter as much as rarity. Because owning a $6.5 million penny is not just about the coin itself but about the narrative that accompanies it. The tale of how it was struck, how it survived, how it was discovered, and how it became legendary. And each new discovery adds a chapter to that story, ensuring that the legend of the 1979 1 cent will endure for generations to come. And so the next time you glance at a penny from 1979 with a small D mint mark beneath the date, take a closer look, because while the vast majority are worth 1 cent, there exists the slim but real possibility that you could be holding a coin worth more than $6 million, a tiny copper-colored miracle that proves once again that in the world of rare coins, the smallest things can carry the biggest fortunes, and this is why collectors, historians, and treasure hunters remain endlessly fascinated with the 1979 penny, because it combines everything that makes numismatics so thrilling: rarity, error, history, controversy, chance, and the dream of discovery. And as long as those elements exist, the story of the 1979 cent worth $6.5 million will continue to inspire, amaze, and ignite the imagination of everyone who hears it. So keep your eyes open, keep searching through your change, and never underestimate the power of a penny. Because hidden among the billions there just might be a life-changing fortune waiting for you. And with that thought in mind, remember to like this video, share it with friends who love treasure stories, and subscribe for more incredible journeys into the hidden world of rare coins where even a 1979 1 cent can hold the key to unimaginable wealth. And another extraordinary journey into the unbelievable world of rare coins where the smallest piece of pocket change can hide fortunes that most people never even dream exist. And today's story is centered on the legendary 1982 1 cent coin from the United States of America. A coin that in ordinary circumstances is simply a penny like billions of others, but under the right conditions and with the right minting mistakes or transitional errors it has been known to be valued at up to $6 million. And to truly appreciate how a humble 1982 penny could ever command such an outrageous figure, we have to dive deep into the historical, economic, and minting background of that year. Because 1982 was not just any year in American coinage, it was a watershed moment when the mint changed the very composition of the penny, switching from the long-used copper alloy to a cheaper zinc core with a thin copper plating, a decision that forever altered the story of the Lincoln cent. And this moment of transition created chaos, overlap, experimentation, and ultimately errors that have become some of the most collectible rarities in modern coinage. And it is exactly within this transition that the 1982 penny becomes legendary. Because during that year both copper and zinc pennies were minted, with subtle differences in weight, strike, and appearance. And this opened the door for transitional mistakes, such as copper planchets struck with dies intended for zinc, or vice versa, and the most famous of all is the 1982 small date struck in copper, a coin so rare that only a handful of genuine examples are known to exist, and one has sold for incredible sums, leading experts to estimate a potential value as high as $6 million depending on condition and market demand. And this rarity exists because in the Denver Mint during 1982 both copper and zinc blanks were present at the same time, and somehow a small number of copper planchets slipped through and were struck with the small date die configuration, producing a hybrid rarity that should not exist but does, and that impossibility is precisely what makes collectors go wild for it, because it combines extreme scarcity, historical importance, and the allure of owning something that defied the mint's intentions. And when we talk about value in numismatics we always return to three ingredients: rarity, demand, and condition. And the 1982 small date copper has all three in abundance, because rarity is off the charts with only a few known survivors, demand is enormous because Lincoln cents are the most collected series in the world, and condition becomes the final multiplier where mint state examples can achieve prices beyond imagination. And it is not only the transitional copper small date that brings fame to the 1982 D penny but also the wide variety of errors produced during that hectic year. Because the simultaneous production of multiple varieties, large date, small date, copper, zinc, Philadelphia, Denver, created enormous confusion and room for mistakes. And so we find double die errors, off-center strikes, broad strikes, wrong planchet strikes, and clipped planchets all tied to the 1982 issue, and each of these errors carries its own premium depending on severity and condition. But when you combine one of these with the transitional rarity such as the copper small date, you have the recipe for a multi-million-dollar masterpiece. And let us not forget the cultural fascination that comes with the Lincoln cent itself, a coin first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth and the first U.S. coin to feature a real person rather than symbolic imagery. And over the decades it became the most familiar coin in American life. So when a rare variety like the 1982 D copper small date emerges, it instantly resonates with collectors of all levels, from beginners who fondly remember saving pennies in jars to advanced investors who treat rare coins like blue chip art, and this universal appeal magnifies demand far beyond what might be expected for such a small piece of metal, because it taps into both nostalgia and investment opportunity. And now we must zoom in on the specific drama of 1982, because that year saw not one or two but 7 distinct variations of the penny when you account for mint marks, date styles, and compositions, including large date copper, large date zinc, small date copper, small date zinc, from both Philadelphia and Denver, and sorting through them became an obsession for collectors, who weighed coins to the tenth of a gram to separate the 3.11 gram copper pieces from the lighter 2.5 gram zinc ones. And among all of these, the rarest of all is the 1982 D small date copper, because Denver officially was supposed to produce only zinc for that variety. Yet somehow copper planchets remained in the mix, and the survival of even a single example proves that mistakes can slip past even the strictest minting process, and this possibility that there might still be undiscovered examples hiding in circulation or in old collections keeps the hunt alive, fueling endless coin roll searches and adding a sense of adventure to numismatics, because people know that theoretically, one of these $6 million rarities could be sitting unrecognized in a drawer or piggy bank, waiting to change someone's life forever. And this dream of discovery is what makes the 1982 D penny so captivating, because unlike coins from centuries ago, this one is modern, recent, and accessible, and yet it hides a prize on par with the most valuable treasures of the numismatic world. And when one surfaces at auction, the coin community erupts with excitement, news outlets pick up the story, and bidding wars push the price into record-breaking territory. Because collectors know that they may never see another example in their lifetimes, and that urgency drives valuations sky high, sometimes to $6 million or more, because value is not only about intrinsic metal content but about history, rarity, story, and desire, and here we have all of it in one coin, a coin that perfectly embodies the chaos of change, the unpredictability of human error, and the passion of collectors. And we must also talk about the symbolism of a penny worth $6 million, because it illustrates in the most dramatic way possible that value is not always about size or face value but about context, rarity, and story, and it teaches us that even the most overlooked, underestimated objects can hold secrets of unimaginable worth, and this lesson inspires collectors worldwide to keep searching, to keep looking closely at their coins, and to never dismiss the possibility that life-changing fortune might be hiding in plain sight. And the legend of the 1982 D penny continues to grow because new discoveries are always possible, and every time a collector weighs a coin or studies a date style under a magnifier, there is a thrill of maybe, just maybe, finding the impossible rarity. And this thrill is what makes numismatics more than a hobby. It makes it a lifelong adventure, a treasure hunt that connects people across generations. And as long as people dream of discovery, the 1982 D 1 cent worth $6 million will remain one of the most exciting and sought-after coins in the world. So the next time you see a 1982 penny with a D mint mark, take the time to check its weight, its date style, and its details, because you never know if you might be holding a $6 million miracle in the palm of your hand. And with that thought, remember to like this video, share it with fellow treasure hunters, and subscribe for more amazing stories from the hidden world of rare coins where history, mistakes, and tiny miracles of metal turn into fortunes beyond imagination. Welcome once again to the incredible world of rare coins where history, minting technology, human error, and sheer luck converge to transform something as ordinary as a 1-cent coin into a multi-million-dollar treasure. And today our story focuses on the astonishing 1983 1-cent coin from the United States of America, a coin that under normal circumstances is just another penny found in jars, drawers, and pockets across the country, but under extraordinary circumstances, thanks to minting errors and transitional anomalies, has been known to achieve values as high as $4 million, and to truly understand why a humble copper-colored disc from 1983 could be worth such staggering sums, we need to dig deep into the historical context of the early 1980s, because 1983 came right on the heels of one of the most dramatic changes in American coinage history. The 1982 switch from the traditional bronze alloy of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc to the cheaper copper plated zinc composition with a core of 97.5% zinc and a thin copper coating of only 2.5%, a change that was made because rising copper prices meant that it actually cost more than 1 cent to produce each penny, and so the United States Mint was forced to economize. And this change set the stage for one of the most famous and valuable mint errors ever, the 1983 copper cent. Because although the official composition had been changed to copper-plated zinc in 1982, a small number of leftover copper planchets from 1982 remained in the minting equipment and were accidentally struck with 1983 dies, producing coins that should not exist but do. And this impossible survival is what makes them some of the most valuable Lincoln cents in history, with one example selling for tens of thousands of dollars and experts estimating the rarest, finest examples could be worth up to $4 million in today's market depending on condition, provenance, and collector demand. And to make this even more fascinating, the 1983 copper cent is instantly identifiable by weight, because a normal zinc-based penny weighs about 2.5 grams while the copper-based pennies weigh 3.11 grams, and this tiny difference has made collectors all over the world weigh their 1983 pennies carefully in hopes of striking gold, or rather copper, with one of these transitional rarities. And while the transitional copper planchets are the most famous, the 1983 penny is also home to another legendary error. The double die reverse, a dramatic minting error where the reverse lettering, especially on the words 1 cent and United States of America, appears double due to a misalignment of the dies, and this doubling is clear and bold, visible even without magnification, making it one of the most beloved error coins among collectors. And while ordinary doubled dies can fetch hundreds or thousands, the most perfect mint state examples of the 1983 double die reverse have soared to tens of thousands at auction. And when combined with the fame of the 1983 transitional copper cent, the entire year of 1983 has become synonymous with treasure in the world of coin collecting. And when we think about how these errors occurred, it reveals the fascinating complexity of coin production, because the mint operates at lightning speed, striking billions of pennies each year, and in that chaotic environment, mistakes are inevitable, whether it is a leftover copper planchet slipping through, dies being misaligned, or planchets being misfed into presses. And while most mistakes are caught or destroyed, a few always escape into circulation, and those few become the stuff of legend, because their survival is accidental, their rarity is extreme, and their stories are unforgettable. And the 1983 penny perfectly illustrates how rarity plus demand equals astronomical value. Because billions of ordinary zinc pennies from that year are worth 1 cent, but a handful of copper planchet or doubled die examples can soar into the millions. And what makes this story even more powerful is the accessibility of it, because unlike ancient gold coins locked away in museums, the 1983 penny is modern, recent, and widely circulated, meaning anyone, anywhere, could stumble upon one in change or a forgotten coin jar. And this possibility has turned the 1983 penny into a treasure hunt for ordinary people, a dream that a $4 million coin could be hiding in plain sight, and that dream is part of what drives the passion of numismatics, because it shows that the pursuit of coins is not just for the wealthy elite but for anyone with curiosity, patience, and a sharp eye. And beyond transitional copper and doubled dies, the 1983 penny also includes other rare mint errors such as off-center strikes where part of the design is missing, broad strikes where the coin spreads wider due to a missing collar, and clipped planchets where crescent-shaped pieces are missing from the edge. And while none of these reach the same level of fame as the copper or doubled die examples, they still fetch premiums far above face value and contribute to the aura of 1983 as a magical year in penny history. And to appreciate why collectors will pay millions for a single coin, we must also look at the human psychology behind collecting, because collectors are not just buying metal, they are buying stories, rarity, and prestige. And to own a 1983 copper cent or doubled die reverse is to own a piece of minting history that almost no one else can claim, and that exclusivity is priceless. And as long as there are collectors, investors, and dreamers, the value of such coins will only rise, because demand never fades for legends. And this is why experts project that if another 1983 copper cent in perfect mint state surfaces, it could easily fetch $4 million or more. Because the supply is virtually non-existent while demand is global, and this imbalance of supply and demand is the very engine that drives record-breaking prices. And the 1983 penny, like so many other rare coins, teaches us that history is not just in books or museums but sometimes in the palm of your hand, waiting to be discovered. And so every time you come across a 1983 penny, weigh it, examine it, and never dismiss it, because you might just be holding a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. A $4 million miracle hidden inside one of the most common coins on Earth. And that is the magic of numismatics, where the ordinary transforms into the extraordinary, where mistakes become masterpieces, and where a tiny coin carries stories of history, economics, and luck far beyond its face value. And with that incredible thought, remember to like this video, share it with friends who love treasure stories, and subscribe for more unbelievable journeys into the hidden world of rare coins where a simple 1983 penny can change your life forever. And today's focus is on the 1987 1-cent coin from the United States of America, a coin that most people would overlook without a second thought as just another penny in their pocket or piggy bank, but which in rare cases can be worth as much as $3.5 million due to dramatic minting errors, transitional oddities, and the sheer scarcity of certain surviving pieces. And to understand how a simple copper-plated zinc penny minted in Denver in 1987 could ever achieve such value, we must travel back into the late 1980s, a time when the penny had recently undergone one of its biggest transformations in history, because by 1982 the mint had officially changed the composition from 95% copper to a cheaper 97.5% zinc core with just a thin copper plating. And while this change had stabilized costs for the mint, it also opened the door to a variety of new minting challenges, plating issues, die deterioration, and experimental processes, all of which occasionally produced errors that slipped through quality control and made their way into circulation. And when such mistakes happen in small enough numbers, they create instant rarities that collectors chase with relentless enthusiasm. And the 1987 penny is a shining example of this phenomenon, because although billions were struck at the Denver Mint, only a handful are known to exhibit the kinds of spectacular errors that elevate them from pocket change to multi-million-dollar masterpieces. And among these are dramatic double die obverse where inscriptions such as Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or the date 1987 show clear doubling due to misaligned hubbing of the dies, and such doubling, when bold and visible to the naked eye, commands huge premiums, especially when preserved in mint state condition. And then there are off-center strikes where the planchet was improperly fed into the press, leaving a portion of the design missing and a wide blank crescent on the coin, which collectors love for its visual impact. And there are also broad strikes that occur when the collar that normally contains the coin during striking is absent, causing the design to spread outward and the coin to appear wider and thinner than normal. And still more fascinating are wrong planchet errors, where a penny design is accidentally struck on a planchet meant for another denomination such as a dime or foreign coin. And these spectacular mistakes are among the most valuable because they are so obvious and rare. And if one of these extraordinary wrong planchet 1987 pennies surfaces in pristine condition, it could easily justify a multimillion-dollar price tag. But beyond the known categories of errors, there is always the irresistible possibility of transitional anomalies. Because although the official switch to copper-plated zinc occurred in 1982, there are persistent rumors and scattered evidence that copper-based planchets remained in storage and were occasionally struck in later years. And should a genuine 1987 penny struck on a copper planchet of 3.11 grams be authenticated, it would instantly become one of the rarest and most valuable modern Lincoln cents ever, with experts estimating a potential value of $3.5 million or more. Because such a piece would not only be a spectacular minting mistake, but also a relic of history connecting the post-1982 zinc era back to the long copper tradition, and the allure of such a discovery drives countless collectors to weigh their 1987 pennies carefully in hopes of finding that miracle coin, and this treasure hunt aspect is what makes the story so powerful, because it means that ordinary people have a chance, however slim, of finding life-changing wealth hidden in plain sight, and that possibility keeps the legend alive and fuels the fascination of numismatics, where every coin is a mystery waiting to be solved. And what makes the 1987 penny especially exciting is its association with the Denver Mint, a facility long known among collectors for producing notable varieties and dramatic errors, and the D-Mint mark itself carries a certain aura in the coin world, inspiring hobbyists to pay extra attention whenever they see it, and this attention means that even subtle anomalies are quickly noticed, tested, and celebrated, creating a feedback loop of rarity and demand. And when one of these rare 1987 errors surfaces at auction, the results are spectacular, with bidders driving the price sky high, sometimes into the multimillion-dollar range, because they know such coins may never appear again in their lifetimes. And this urgency and competition is the lifeblood of the numismatic market, where rarity plus demand equals astronomical value, and beyond the technical details lies the deeper human story of why coins like the 1987 penny matter so much. Because they are not just pieces of metal but pieces of history, representing the economic realities of their time, the technological challenges of mass production, and the unpredictability of human oversight. And when a coin that was supposed to be worth 1 cent suddenly sells for millions, it becomes a symbol of possibility, a reminder that the world is full of hidden treasures waiting to be found, and this symbolism is why collectors, investors, and dreamers all continue to chase the rarest Lincoln cents, and why the 1987 penny will forever be part of numismatic lore, because it captures everything that makes coin collecting so thrilling: the mystery, the rarity, the chance of discovery, the excitement of auctions, and the dream of holding history in your hand. And as long as people believe in the possibility of finding one of these multimillion-dollar rarities, the legend of the 1987 1 cent worth $3.5 million will continue to inspire treasure hunts across the country. So the next time you see a penny dated 1987 with a D-Mint mark beneath the date, don't dismiss it as just another cent. Take a closer look, weigh it, study the details, because you never know if you might be holding a fortune disguised as pocket change. And with that incredible possibility in mind, remember to like this video, share it with fellow coin enthusiasts and treasure seekers, and subscribe for more incredible journeys into the secret world of rare coins, where even the most ordinary looking penny can turn into a $3.5 million miracle. The 1987 penny might look like the most ordinary coin in your pocket, yet in the world of collectors, small mistakes can turn it into a fortune, because some were struck with incredible minting errors such as double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, or even rare wrong planchet mistakes, and these few coins that escaped quality control are now considered treasures worth millions, with the rarest examples reaching up to $3.5 million at auction. And the fascination comes not only from their rarity, but also from the dream that anyone could still stumble across one in everyday change, which is why coin roll hunters and treasure seekers continue to search, knowing that a life-changing discovery could be sitting unnoticed in a jar of pennies. And that dream is what makes the 1987 cent so legendary, reminding us that sometimes the smallest coin can hold the biggest fortune. Welcome back to another deep dive into the incredible universe of coin collecting, where what looks like an ordinary cent can hide jaw-dropping secrets that turn it into a multi-million-dollar treasure. And today our focus is on the 1994 United States 1-cent coin, a Lincoln cent that in its normal form is found by the billions in jars, drawers, wallets, and change all over the country. But in extraordinary circumstances, thanks to rare minting errors and anomalies, has been valued as high as $3 million, and the more we look into its story, the more fascinating it becomes, because the 1994 penny was struck during a time when the United States Mint was fully entrenched in producing copper-plated zinc cents, a composition introduced in 1982 to cut down on costs. And while the vast majority of these pennies weigh about 2.5 grams with a zinc core and a thin copper shell, there are rare cases where mistakes occurred that completely changed the outcome, producing coins that are today considered priceless rarities. And among these mistakes is the possibility of wrong planchet strikes, where a penny design is struck on the wrong metal blank, and in 1994, this could mean a Lincoln cent being struck on a foreign coin blank, or even on leftover copper planchets that should have been long gone, and if such a coin exists, it becomes a transitional anomaly with value skyrocketing far beyond imagination. And then we must consider double die errors, which are some of the most dramatic and visually striking errors collectors crave, because when the dies used to strike the coins are misaligned during the hubbing process, inscriptions such as Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and the date 1994 can appear doubled. And this doubling is sometimes so bold that it can be seen with the naked eye, making it a highly collectible feature that instantly sets such a coin apart. And another category is off-center strikes, where the coin was not properly seated in the press and part of the design is missing, leaving a crescent of blank planchet visible, and the more dramatic the misalignment, the more valuable the coin becomes. And then there are broad strikes, where the retaining collar that normally keeps the coin in place during striking is absent, leading the design to spread outward and the coin to look wider and thinner than normal. And each of these error types, when combined with the fact that only a tiny fraction of the billions struck in 1994 escaped with such mistakes, creates an environment where rarity drives value into the stratosphere. And the 1994 penny also carries the intrigue of plating errors unique to the zinc era, because when the copper plating is improperly applied or missing in areas, it reveals the silvery zinc core beneath, creating dramatic visual anomalies like missing copper spots, peeling layers, or even completely unplated planchets. And these so-called naked zinc coins are highly sought after when genuine, because they represent yet another layer of minting oversight, and the existence of coins with full or partial missing plating has fascinated collectors for decades. And when they are tied to the 1994 date and preserved in high mint state condition, they can command enormous premiums. But the true legends of the 1994 cent are those coins with transitional errors or spectacular wrong planchet strikes, because they defy logic and are instantly recognized as once-in-a-lifetime finds. And when one of these surfaces at a major auction, the results are breathtaking, with bids soaring into the millions, because collectors know such pieces may never appear again. And the story becomes even more exciting when we think about the psychology behind collecting, because people are not just chasing metal, they are chasing the story of rarity, survival, and discovery. And owning a coin like a 1994 cent worth $3 million is not just about possession but about holding history in your hand, about telling a story that connects human error at the mint to human curiosity in collecting. And this narrative power adds to the value in ways that transcend ordinary economics. And it is exactly this combination of rarity, narrative, and collector demand that propels certain 1994 pennies into multi-million-dollar territory. And beyond the errors themselves lies the allure of possibility. Because billions of these coins were struck, and yet the rare ones are hiding somewhere out there, perhaps in an old coin jar, a forgotten roll in a bank vault, or even in circulation waiting for a sharp-eyed treasure hunter to find. And that possibility fuels endless searching, coin roll hunting, and examination by hobbyists across the world, who weigh, inspect, and scrutinize every 1994 cent they find in hopes of stumbling upon a miracle. And this thrill of the hunt is what keeps numismatics alive. Because every coin examined carries the potential of being the one that changes a life forever. And when we consider how a 1-cent coin could be worth $3 million. It almost feels like a parable, teaching us that the smallest, most overlooked things can hold unimaginable value, and this lesson resonates with people across generations, making the hobby not just about money but about history, patience, and wonder. And the 1994 penny is a perfect example of how modern coins, even from the 1990s, can still harbor secrets capable of shocking the collecting world. And because of this, the legend of the 1994 1-cent continues to grow, inspiring new collectors, fueling auctions, and reminding everyone that treasure can be found in the most ordinary places. So the next time you see a penny dated 1994, don't dismiss it, pick it up, weigh it, study its details, look for doubling, plating errors, or wrong planchet clues, because you never know if you could be holding a fortune in disguise. A tiny copper-plated zinc disc worth $3 million. And with that thrilling thought, remember to like this video, share it with friends who love hidden treasure stories, and subscribe for more amazing journeys into the secret world of rare coins where even a 1994 penny can carry the weight of history, mystery, and unimaginable fortune. The 1994 1-cent coin may look like just another common penny, yet its story proves how extraordinary value can hide in plain sight, because while billions were produced, only a select few came out of the Denver and Philadelphia mints with striking errors that turned them into treasures, from dramatic doubled dies where letters seem to be printed twice, to off-center strikes that leave part of the coin blank, to plating mishaps that expose the silvery zinc beneath the copper layer. And every one of these mistakes makes a normal penny suddenly fascinating to collectors. But the rarest of all are the wrong planchet strikes or potential transitional anomalies, which are so scarce that they can drive the price up to $3 million at auction. And this possibility of finding such a piece in everyday change is what excites treasure hunters and coin roll searchers, reminding us that even the smallest coin can hold the power to change lives. So whenever you come across a 1994 penny, it's worth slowing down and taking a closer look, because you might just have history and fortune in the palm of your hand.